Bison 1660, covering the world of NDSU sports like no other.
North Dakota State advances to the round of 32.
Touchdown, Bison! My, oh my!
The Insiders are presented by Proseed. Need seed? Think Proseed. Welcome to your green and gold HQ for the Bison. The Insiders on Bison 1660 starts now.
Here we go. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Insiders, coming at you live from our First Western Bank Broadcast Center. Hope you had a great weekend. Sam Niederman here with you. Bison legend Kyle Emanuel in the studio. Andy is off today, taking a little vacation, a little extended weekend, 3-day weekend for Andy, so he will join us again tomorrow. But Kyle is in his chair. Good to see you, my man. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back in the saddle.
Yeah.
Feels like it's... Well, I guess I was with you on Thursday.
Yeah.
It's been a while since been in this chair. Andy took over my chair, and now I've taken it back from him for at least one day, so I'm excited to be back with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was fun on Thursday. We're rocking again today. Ian is on the board once again. He was with us on Friday. Micah Bindi also on vacation, so Andy and Micah getting in their rest, I guess you could say, before the season starts. I can't fault him, I guess, too much, but slacking a little bit as we start the week on a Monday.
We, I thought we made a pact, like, vacations were done. Although I guess I was just on vacation as well. But hey, once football gets rolling, as you know, it's full go. So they got to get their rest and restoration in, I guess.
Well, so school is back in session.
Yeah.
NDSU move-in day was this weekend. Saw all the cars. I was out at practice on Saturday. Saw all the cars on University. It was the most traffic I've seen in Fargo, really, since coming here a few weeks ago. Everybody getting unpacked. All the students are back, so that's pretty cool. We got the fall semester in good swig, and it's football season. Week 0 has arrived. We have got college football on the docket this weekend, and NDSU will kick off in less than 2 weeks at U.S. Bank Stadium as they take on Eastern Washington. We are inside 14 days. So it is real. Football season is here. And no better man to usher in college football than the one that we have with us to start the show. He's on the Epic Companies hotline. Josh Pate joins us. He hosts Late Kick Live and the Late Kick podcast, covering college football for CBS Sports and 247 Sports. Kind enough to join us on a Monday morning. Josh, you're with Sam and Kyle here on the Insiders. Appreciate you taking the time, man. You're on the air here in Fargo, North Dakota. How are you?
I'm really, really good because I sense that the excitement in that studio matches how I feel right now, so we are one and the same.
Absolutely, my friend. We got week 0 coming on here. The first thing I got to ask, though, what are the odds we can get the Once Upon a Saturday tour to come up to Fargo this season? What do you think about that?
Look, if it doesn't happen, management is to blame, not me. I'm responsible for the good stuff. Yeah, management sometimes gets in the way. I've thought about that a couple times, actually. What we do, we just go to the biggest game in the country, and sometimes there's some dollars and cents involved there too, or branding. But there have been a couple of times actually where I've looked at NDSU games, and it's probably ended up like 3rd on the pecking order, but it's never gotten up there to number 1. And so I've never even been to an Oklahoma game. Those folks are mad at me. And so we got some places that we still have to knock off the bucket list, North Dakota State definitely being one of them.
Yeah, you got to get up to Fargo here, Josh. We would love to have you. And it is not technically Fargo, but if there is one date you want to circle on the calendar, it would be November 4 this year. It is in Brookings. That is enemy territory, South Dakota State, but it is the Dakota Marker game. Big rivalry game between NDSU and SDSU. Game day was there in 2019 when Trey Lance was playing for NDSU. Bison had a perfect season that year, won the national title again. That's going to be a big one. It could be 1 versus 2 in a rematch of last year's FCS national championship. So just put it out there. But you are always welcome here in Fargo to come up to the Fargo Dome for sure. We appreciate you taking the time. We're talking a little college football here. Josh Pate, CBS Sports, 247 Sports with us on our Epic Companies hotline. Josh, give me your 30,000-foot view of this season. Week 0 starting this weekend in college football, and this might be the last year as we know it in the sport. Last year, the 14 playoff. Last year with the Power 5 conferences as we know it, all the realignment that happened this summer. What's your theme? What is your overall synopsis of what this season means for college football here in 2023?
Well, we called that tour that we go on the Once Upon a Saturday tour because I wanted sort of the element of romanticism and mysticism and storytelling, because I really think we're probably at the tail end of an era, much like the BCS once upon a time, that will be remembered more fondly 15 years from now than it is currently. See, folks hated the BCS when they got out of it, and then you got a lot of folks who hated it who wish they could go back to it. And I feel we may look at the 4-team playoff era the same way. Not everyone, but I think there'll be a sizable chunk. I think the thing that I noticed the most over the spring and summer is so many people wanted to ask questions about 2024. And I was like, it's going to get here, guys. We got an entire season in front of us, though. Why in the world would I want to dedicate inventory on my show to 2024? Let's let it happen when it happens. But, I understand realignment dominated the conversation, and we talked about it a little bit too. But I think this year the theme could be chaos because it's kind of setting up in a way where, Ryan Day, I'll give you an example. Ryan Day at Ohio State, I have it on pretty good word, is going to have a press conference in about 30 minutes where he's going to announce that he's going to play both quarterbacks week 1. Alabama has no clue what they have at quarterback right now. These are, 2 of the 3 or 4 highest odds teams to win the title this year. Georgia is starting a first-time quarterback. Michigan is the one that has continuity there, but people question whether their overall roster caliber is that can compete for and win a national title. And so if you have that, you just have a lot more variance potentially inserted into the weekly equation. You have a lot more opportunity for upset, and therefore you have a larger window, I think, than in normal years for things to happen that are unexpected. And that's really probably the best formula. That's the best year that you have in college football is when that stuff happens.
Well, Josh, you mentioned them, so let's go right there. I wanted to ask you about the Big Ten. I want to ask about Nebraska, but I'll save that for now. I believe I looked at your preseason poll. You had Ohio State over Michigan, and I think a lot of the national media has Michigan at number 2 right now, but I believe you had Ohio State over Michigan. Why did you have that, and what is your outlook for the Big Ten this year?
Yeah, so that right there is just about neutral field favorability. That's all it is. It's all it's meant to be. And it's not even an opinion because you could bet that game right now. And if you look at Ohio State at Michigan at the moment in the odds market, Michigan's a 1.5-point favorite at home, which means implied probability neutral field slightly leans Ohio State. So that's at least it's an opinion shared by odds makers. I'll put it that way. I am a believer, and I have been since the spring with both Bama and Ohio State, actually, that there's a galvanization that happens in an ultra-talented locker room when you know you don't have an elite quarterback. Now, if you've got one and you lose him during the season, this doesn't happen. But if you break spring camp and you realize, ooh, we don't have C.J. Stroud, we don't have Bryce Young, and there's not one coming anytime soon, people collectively pick up a little bit more of the slack. It's hard to quantify that in terms of value, but people pick up a little bit more of the slack. And so what looks like a weakness to the casual eye, ooh, they don't have an elite quarterback, sometimes ends up having the reverse effect. It's kind of like if you have an injury, if your quarterback's injured 1 week, and then you go and bet against that team, and that team plays well above their head the next week, you wonder, how did they do that? Well, that's the galvanization effect. It just, sometimes it happens in a locker room. And I felt it happening in Columbus and Tuscaloosa. Doesn't guarantee anything, but I feel that. And I also feel the most underreported aspect of Ohio State is defensively, they'll be good this year. I think they're a team that can afford to win games in multiple ways, and I would not have said that about them last year. So it's fractions of inches. There's not a gap to me between Ohio State and Michigan, but I'm so interested to see how that plays out. Both those teams, Bama and Ohio State, just because they don't have the QB that they've had to lean on the last several years.
Josh, I think you make a great point. I want to follow up on those two teams globally because they're at an interesting point in their development. You look at the college football playoff era since 14, the two constants you could always bank on outside of Clemson, save the last couple of years, were Bama and Ohio State. You mentioned the D for the Buckeyes. Yeah, JT Tuimoloau, the defensive end. That's somebody that people are going to continue to get to know this year. I think he single-handedly won them that Penn State game last year in Happy Valley. And Knowles did a nice job, and I think they'll continue to develop on that side of the ball. But looking globally at Ohio State, one of the narratives around Ryan Day has been there's a little more pressure this year. Losing to Michigan the last 2 seasons, losing the Big Ten to Michigan the last 2 seasons. Where are you at on Ryan Day as a whole and how much of an impact year this could be for him? And then on the Alabama side of things, Nick Saban, last season a rarity that they weren't playing for a national championship after they had lost to LSU in November. That was a 2-loss team and they were out of contention. What do you feel about Saban at this stage in his career, given that the retirement, that's something that's going to be on people's minds here in the next couple of years, and some of those questions that you had referenced to with the quarterback situation for the Tide?
So what's interesting is both the guys you just mentioned, I'm blessed enough to have had the ability to have off-record conversations with both of them over the past couple of months. So with Ryan Day, it is really, really interesting when you watch from the outside all the perceived pressure on him, and it's wild now. Even I think that's wild. When you talk to him about it, I don't think anyone gets it more than he gets it. And he kind of is so nonchalant about it, not in a way that he doesn't take it seriously, but he's dead serious when he says, it's my family that it really impacts. Okay, I get it. I knew what I was signing up for, and frankly, I feel the same way. So there's no fan that's harder on me than I am on myself, but at the same time, like, they do not view it as a wholesale failure organizationally when they lose to Michigan. I know that's the way it's perceived, and I've been at those games the last 2 years. I know how it feels in the stadium. It's fractions of inches. It's just little small degrees of change, and so instead of burning it down and starting from scratch, you've got to be mature enough to dial in and really hone in on what do we need to change 3 degrees over here? What needs to change 1.5 degrees over here? Strength and conditioning, nutrition, mental development, those sorts of things. I think that they've done good jobs up there. When I talked to their players at Big Ten Media Days, it was almost like talking to guys that have come straight out of the military. It really, really felt like a different vibe than any other team. With Saban at Alabama, a lot was made of the coordinators and the 2 new coordinators that he hired. And
right.
He won't say this, but he'll intimate it. I'll say it for him. Nick Saban thinks there are about 50 coordinators in college football that he'd win national titles with as long as his team is wired the right way mentally. They weren't wired the right way mentally last year, and that's a failure on his part. He admits that before you can even get it out of your mouth. But they have the best players in college football. They still do. They've still got the best roster in college football. They've got on their team right now 3 of the 6 highest-ranked recruiting classes in the history of 247. Just on the roster right now, and it's being overlooked because they don't have the quarterback. But they brought in guys. I think their offensive line is probably the strength of their team right now. I haven't said that in the last few years. I think their secondary is a strength of their team. You weren't saying that when Tennessee was hanging half 100 on them last year. I just think it's going to be a radically different style for both of them. Frankly, both of them will probably be run-oriented to start the year and try and ease a quarterback in. That's why I care what they look like in November. It can even afford to lose a game early. I care what they look like in November because I think this is the kind of year where someone's going to get left for dead after an early season loss and end up right there in the thick of it.
Josh, I want to stay right there in the Big Ten and talking about head coaches and one that's in year number 1, and that's Matt Rule. I'm a Nebraska native, and I know that the college football fan of this era is probably like, well, why do I care about Nebraska? Well, I still remember them as the power that they were back in the 90s and even beyond that. What do you expect, I guess, from year 1 from Matt Rule, and what does he need to do to say, like, okay, this was a successful year 1 down there in Lincoln?
It's going to sound like a dumb response, but competing every week is the very simple answer, just being in it. But I know what that means to Nebraska fans. Nebraska fans say, we've been playing one-possession games here forever, it feels like. We just lose too many of them. Well, that's true. Okay, so we got Rule about a month ago, I guess, on the show, and I asked him what is actually possible at Nebraska. So, in other words, I threw at him the perception that Nebraska can't be great anymore. That's a bygone era in college football. And he was really meticulous and broke it down, and he sort of said, well, that's BS, but here's why it's BS. And he just laid out his plan, laid out recruiting strategy. I think the portal, it so massively and disproportionately helps programs like Nebraska, UCLA, Kentucky. Those are 2 others that have benefited massively from it. Because those are places that are not going to necessarily compete for all the 5 stars the first time around, But the second time around, when guys are focused on nuts and bolts, meats and potatoes issues of, what matters in development, those are the places that are going to attract the second time around guys, the guys with more experience too. So what you just saw them do in the portal, I don't think that's a one-year thing. I think that's going to be an every-year thing for them. And it's a little bit of a crapshoot, I'll admit. But, look, there's excitement around there for a reason. I feel the same way about Wisconsin. There's excitement around those programs because I don't think 12 months ago anyone thought they were going to have the caliber of coach of Matt Rule or Luke Fickell in Lincoln or Madison, respectively. And it's kind of being noticed nationally. I've sensed that a lot of folks are kind of rooting against Matt Rule silently, not because they don't like him, but because they don't really want to deal with Nebraska being back. They're the same way with Tennessee and the SEC. They wish Heupel would just go away, so there's already enough to deal with. They don't feel like dealing with another program being legit.
That's a good point right there. Josh Pate joining us here on the Epic Companies Hotline, hosts of Late Kick Live, Late Kick podcast for CBS Sports and 247 Sports covering college football. Josh, your Once Upon a Saturday tour, you guys announced the first stop. It's Thursday night, week 1 at Utah, Florida-Utah, game 2 of that home-and-home big-time game last year to open up the weekend for the Gators. They ended up winning that one in the swamp thanks to the interception at the goal line. I wanted to ask about Billy Napier in Florida. I think this is a really interesting situation that probably requires a little more patience than some of the average fan would give. The honeymoon phase for him definitely ended last year after losing to Vandy. A tough loss in the bowl to Oregon State as well. You look at Florida, this is a proud program, right? That Netflix documentary is coming out here, I think tomorrow for Urban Meyer and those teams. They really haven't been the same since, save a couple of the Dan Mullen teams. Muschamp obviously didn't work out, and then when they had McElwain, it was, SEC East, but they were never going to compete for any of those titles when they got to Atlanta. Where are you at on Billy Napier in Florida this year, year 2, a big year for him, and how he could potentially get the Gators back to what they once were?
Well, this is one where I'm a little confused because the over-under win total is 5.5, and yet when I pressed the numbers crunch button and our poll got spit out, my power ratings have him at number 21 in the country. So don't have many 5 or 6 win teams in the top 25 usually. So something's got to give there. I think that Mike Norvell, ironically enough, has done Billy Napier a big favor because Norvell came in the door at FSU and inherited something similar. And it was terrible year 1. And it wasn't really good year 2 either. And there were folks calling for his job. But they gave him a third year. And year 3 turned out last year like it did at Florida State. Well, now they're a preseason top 10 team, and folks think they may win the ACC and go to the playoff. And the lesson was learned, I think, down there in the Panhandle, that sometimes it'll work. Sometimes you have the right guy, even if it doesn't work on your schedule. And so I look at Billy Napier the same way. I mean, look, here's the one benefit of having that low of an expectation level is they could go 7-5 this year, and that is horrible by Florida standards, but it's actually a win. And it's something that you could package up and sell and say, hey, look, we're headed in the right direction. The other thing he's learning that he could never have known at Louisiana is how to recruit in the SEC. Now, he was on those Bama staffs, and he's done it as an assistant, but as a head coach, we had him a couple of months ago, and I said, hey, what is it like day-to-day to recruit in the SEC? And he talked about what the biggest key is, and that is you cannot get emotional about it, or you would just drive yourself crazy. It is so high one day, so low the next day, especially in the state of Florida, the way it is down there right now. I've never seen anything like it, actually, even in the state of Florida, and especially when you throw NIL in the mix. So I think he'll figure it out. He's a supreme evaluator and developer. There's never any doubt about that. I dare you to find anyone who says otherwise about him. They just doubt whether he can execute at the highest level. I've always thought that's a little bit nonsensical. When guys get elevated who have done it at a lower level and they don't do it at a higher level, a lot of times it's because you didn't give them enough time. And so Billy Napier, if he's given enough time, he'll succeed. I don't know if that means this year. I think they'll be better than expected, but I don't know if that means they're a 10-win team or a 9-win team this year. I think you'll see progress, though.
Josh, last question for me. One other team on the national landscape that I feel like everyone talks about. It seems like we talk about them every year, and that's in the Big 12, at least for now with Texas. And obviously the Big 12, we followed a little bit more up here in Fargo with Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, but it seems like everyone is so high on Texas, and I think they're picked to win the conference for the first time since 2009. I always tend to kind of be cautious about that because I feel like they always have the 5-star recruits. They're always flashy, but haven't really produced in the last couple of years. Is Texas back? Is Texas for real this year in 2023?
Oh, they absolutely are. They're one of the best teams in the country. Now, when I say that, the natural response is, well, you say that every year. Well, I don't say it every year. You're right. They are hyped every year. I've not participated in it. So this is me being here for the first time. I'm new at the party. But I can tell you one thing that I think is one of the biggest myths in college football is Texas always recruited well and was always talented. They didn't, and they weren't. It's a myth. What happened was the recruiting industry sort of painted a false picture of what Texas was. Texas did what I call ornamental recruiting, and that's basically if you just went and bought a bunch of ornaments but you had no tree to hang them on, you'd have a bunch of Christmas decorations, but it would just look dumb. It wouldn't work. Texas had a lot of running backs and wide receivers. They didn't have offensive line and defensive line talent, so they didn't have a team, and they got run over, but they were finishing high in recruiting rankings, so everyone thought, oh, Texas is just underachieving. Look, they're as talented as everyone else is. Well, they weren't. Or rather, the talent was not proportionally spread out. And now it is. Now they're recruiting better than they have, but they're also recruiting the right players and recruiting really elite future NFL offensive and defensive linemen. And then you start to look in the secondary where they were routinely getting torched and having to convert wide receivers to safeties, and they've gotten much, much better there as well. It's sort of like Ohio State is one of the more underrated parts of their fall camp. Texas is pretty good defensively, too. That they may have the best run defense or one of the best run defenses in the Big 12, and they're going to go into Tuscaloosa in Week 2. And that's the most exciting part of that matchup is Bama knows they got to run the ball to win this year, and Texas has a pretty good run defense. And that's, as much as will be talked about quarterback, that's the matchup of that game. And I don't even want to begin to imagine a world where Texas beats Alabama. You've never seen hype like that around any program ever. If Texas goes into Tuscaloosa and wins in Week 2, there are people who don't even watch college football who would get swept up in the Texas's back hype.
Yeah, that would be something else, Josh. That would be chaotic, and as you mentioned at the top, chaos is the theme for 2023 in college football, and we cannot wait to have it back as Week 0 returns this weekend. And then Week 1, the week after that. We appreciate you taking some time, man. Really had a lot of fun, and hope we can do it again soon, and hope that we can get you up to Fargo here. If you're ever in town, let us know.
I echo all those sentiments. I appreciate you guys having me.
All righty. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. That's Josh Pate from Late Kick Live, Late Kick Podcast, CBS Sports, covering college football, joining us here on a Monday on the Insiders. Kind enough to take some time. College football is back, baby. We are rolling. That was a good, comprehensive layout right there. A lot of stuff to look forward to this season. I really could not imagine Texas beating Bama and what the consequences of that would be in Week 2.
Yeah, and I thought that was spot on what he said because I got caught up in it, right? We look at the recruiting rankings and everything that Texas has done in the last couple of years, and you assume, oh, they're really good. But if you don't I'm a huge proponent, as you could probably guess, playing at NDSU and following this team, of like you have to build your team around the offensive defensive lines. I don't care who you have running the ball, throwing the ball, catching the ball. It doesn't matter if you can't do it in the trenches, and maybe that's where Texas was lacking. People seem to think they're back. I'm still going to be cautious. Now, if they beat Alabama, I might hop on the trade just a little bit, but I'm still cautious. Like I'm still going to buy in on my guy Chris Kleiman and everything in Kansas State, but Texas, at least preseason, they've won it so far, the preseason.
I agree. K-State's got that workman-like attitude that Coach Kleiman brings. Their offensive line is really good, too. The kid Beebe they've got, who's their center, he's one of the best linemen in the Big 12. That will be an interesting storyline to follow if K-State can defend their Big 12 crown as Texas, the trendy pick, is back in the fold once again. All righty. Appreciate you being here. Insiders on a Monday. We got a big show for you. That was Josh Pate talking a little college football right off the cuff. We'll talk Twins, Vikings, and a couple of pro Bison quarterbacks that played in preseason over the weekend. That's coming up next as we bring you the show from our First Western Bank Broadcast Center. First Western Bank and Trust is your community bank with premier customer service and banking on the go with the My First Western app. First Western Bank and Trust. You can bank on us. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. We continue here on the Insiders. Little pro Bison NFL talk and much more. Headlines from the weekend after this.
Hear the herd here. Bison's 1660.
I think what makes Proceed win is we're different than the other companies in many ways with our programming, our simplicity, our non-corporate attitudes, and our personal relationship building.
What Proceed is, we bring back the old-fashioned seed buying experience. We're true seedsmen. We care about everything from the sale to the planting to following up afterwards. That's what we're all about, is just trying to bring that experience back to a personal level.
Need seed? Think Proceed. Proceed.net. Great seed at a reasonable price.
I like big beats, and I cannot lie. We know you saw those trucks drive by. It's that time of year again. Express Employment is hiring for the annual sugar beet harvest, where you can earn up to $4,200 in just 2 weeks. Beat the crowds and apply now by visiting our offices in Drayton, Grand Forks, Hillsboro, Crookston, and Fargo. Give us a call today at 888-791-6738 or check us out online at sugarbeetharvest.com.
Twisted Tea.
Whiskey.
Twisted Tea.
Whiskey.
Twisted Tea.
Whiskey. There's no need to fight. There's now Twisted Tea Sweet Tea Whiskey available. It's made with whiskey and real brewed tea. It'll take your taste buds on a wild ride that's smooth and sweet. Twisted Tea Sweet Tea Whiskey can make anyone a whiskey fan. 32.5% alcohol, 65 proof. Pick up a bottle and feel Twisky today with Twisted Tea Sweet Tea Whiskey.
Living at the Bridges has been a great experience for me, and I'm inviting you to come check it out too. Hey, it's Cole Payton with the Bison football team. The Bridges has all-inclusive pricing. That means internet, cable, electric, water, everything is included in your 1 monthly payment. And don't forget about the private bathrooms. And it's right across from the football practice complex, so I can walk to practice. The amenities are insane. A great fitness center, outdoor courtyard with fireplaces, grills, and even a pizza oven, a cyber cafe, and an automated convenience store. Tour today to find out more. Online at bridgesnd.com.
No matter where you work, whether it's at your kitchen table or in the office, you need to collaborate with your team. ProConnect from Consolidated Communications makes it happen. You'll never miss a call when you can answer from your desk phone, laptop, or cell phone. And you can communicate instantly using real-time messaging. Confidently connect with customers over secure video conferencing and work together to create and share documents. Get ready to connect, collaborate, and communicate brilliantly. Choose ProConnect, your team collaboration tool from Consolidated Communications.
Looking for the ultimate relaxation experience? Jacuzzi Hot Tubs of Fargo will help you find your perfect hot tub. At Jacuzzi Hot Tubs of Fargo, their staff is knowledgeable, and you'll always have personalized service. You won't be able to just see their wide variety of sizes and styles. You'll be able to sink into the full experience and try them for yourself. Plus, they have so many financing options, so owning a jacuzzi is more affordable than ever before. Stop by today and experience the jacuzzi difference, or go online at jacuzzihottubsoffargo.com.
Sicky's Garage. 50 burgers, 50 brews, and more.
Summertime is made for getting out and soaking up the sun. Add in motorcycles, free beer, live music, and tons of prizes. You'll have bike night every Wednesday at Sicky's Garage Burgers and Brews. Every Wednesday, 5 to 9 throughout the summer. Don't forget your free punch card. The more punches you have, the more tickets you'll get for the end-of-season grand prizes, like a bike trailer, trip for two to Las Vegas, a 2023 Street Mob 114, and more. We'll see you at Sicky's.
Rice Companies understands that strong buildings and strong communities start with strong connections. They know the importance of every bolt, every beam, and every handshake. Every connection must be strong. When you work with Rice Companies, you're building on more than concrete and steel. You're building on knowledge and expertise with people you can trust. People who value your investment as much as you do. Connect with Rice Companies, your local Butler builder, and experience the difference strong connections can make for your business. Learn more and see career opportunities at ricecompanies.com.
This month at Corwin Toyota, trade in your vehicle and receive a $2,500 trade-in assist on select new models. That's $2,500 in extra cash towards your new Toyota. And when you trade, you are eligible for financing as low as 3.99%. With over 170 new vehicles to choose from online, we have the perfect match waiting for you. If you're not looking to buy but need extra cash, that's okay. We'll pay you top dollar for your vehicle. Head to Corwin Toyota today or shop online at corwinauto.com.
Gearing up for another season of Bison football? We've got you covered each and every day on the Insiders on Bison 1660.
Happy Monday, back here on the Insiders. Sam Niederman, Kyle Emanuel, Ian Longton here with you. Big thank you again to Josh Pate joining us to start the show, talk a little college football. This 11 a.m. hour of The Insiders, presented by Rick Electric. Rick Electric has been serving the Fargo community for over 56 years, providing excellent electrical services for both commercial and residential electrical needs. Find out what they can do for you online at rickelectric.com. All right, fellas, we're rolling back here in studio. Good weekend all around?
It was a pretty relaxed weekend for me. Last one, I think, for quite a while, with football season ramping up. So just kind of stayed at home, try to do some things, got a little golfing in, and
nice.
It was a much needed kind of relaxing weekend.
You hit them well, all right?
Friday, okay. Yesterday, hit and miss, literally. Yeah,
gotcha.
Hit and miss.
Gotcha.
It was fine.
Ian, good weekend. You had a wedding out in St. Cloud, right?
Indeed, yeah. It was really hot. It was like 95, and it was outdoors, right? So like trying to find the AC, I had to sneak off to the bathroom like 9 times just to stand in there and cool off. But no, it was a good time.
All right, you survived. Ian's back with
I'm
us.
back.
Micah on vacation. Andy on vacation, taking a little extended weekend. We'll have them back in the fold come tomorrow. But glad that you're here with us. A lot to get to. We had a big weekend as we ramp up to football season, NFL preseason action, MLB down the stretch, Twins still in first place in the division. Vikings were also in action. Let's get to that. Little weekend headlines, starting with Trey Lance. He played the second half for the 49ers, Kyle, leads the Niners to a preseason victory over the Broncos, 21-20. The final score. Lance 12 of 18, 173 through the air. He overcame an early interception on a little screen pass, kind of a fluky play. D. Lineman made a good play. Ends up leading the Niners on a touchdown drive that brings them within one score, and then on the game-winning field goal drive, they win it as time expires. Nice performance for Trey Lance. This was Russell Wilson, Broncos quarterback, on Lance and some of the criticism that he's received after the game.
Well, the thing about Trey, people have to understand that I believe he's 22 years old. He got drafted at 20 years old, weight in the world on his shoulders, and I think that the thing about it is he's a tremendous football player. He's got a lot of gifts, he's a lot of talent, and it's gonna turn for his good. And I believe Trey is a guy that's one, he's worked at his craft, just watching him and just all the things he's done, but also two, the best thing that Trey can do is ignore the noise. There's only so many people in the world that get to play this position. There's only so many people in the world that get to step in between the white lines on a National Football League field, and he's one of them. And he's a guy that's going to have a great career. He just got to keep working at it and know that there's going to be some tough days. There's going to be some great days. And knowing that, if anybody knows, I know. But just knowing that, like it's one of those things that you just trust the process. You trust the process. You enjoy the journey, and you have tunnel vision. You put the blinders on. You just keep working, and there's always a breakthrough. So, I'm rooting for him. I think he's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability, a lot of years left.
There you have it. Russell Wilson on Trey Lance. Wise words from a veteran, former Super Bowl champion. Lance looked pretty good to me from what I saw after overcoming that pick. Leads the Niners to a win. Did run with the threes. Brock Purdy started the first series, and then Sam Darnold got the reps with the twos as they flip-flopped it from the previous week for the Niners.
Yeah, and this is such an overreaction season, right? We saw Dan Orlovsky go on ESPN last week and say, I've seen enough. Like, he can't play in this offense, and you have all these national pundits coming out and saying, it's done for trade. The guy needs to play football. You go back, and even at NDSU, I was actually looking up some of his stats. There was a couple games, I think he threw over 30. He had 30 pass attempts one time in his career and over 20 a couple times. But we all know NDSU's offense. Yeah, it's a very good offense for quarterbacks. He wasn't throwing the ball a ton there, and that was 1 year. He had 1 year, and then he's had to sit. He needs to play, and he even came out with some quotes like, the more I play, the more pictures I see, the better I get. We saw that just from week 1 to week 2. And, yeah, he struggled a little bit in week 1, but I think the other stat that we have to point out is he didn't get sacked in the game, which he struggled with that a little bit in week 1. Got the ball out of his hands, did some really nice things, and now here we are saying, I'm sure now people are talking, well, now he might have some trade value, whatever. It's overreaction season in the preseason, and we're seeing that play out once again.
Yeah, he'll get another opportunity. Final preseason game for the 49ers is against the Chargers. Speaking of the Chargers, another former Bison quarterback got all the snaps last night. Easton Stick was a starter for the Chargers as they played the Saints at SoFi. Take a listen as Mr. Stick found the end zone once again.
First and goal. Now it's Doss.
Stick keeps it himself. Stick walks in there. Touchdown, Chargers. A 6-yard scamper, and the Chargers are an extra point away from the tie.
So another good preseason performance for Easton Stick, at least on the ground. 21 of 41 through the air, 233 passing, a couple of interceptions. He does go for 63 on the ground, including that rushing touchdown and another one on a quarterback sneak. Chargers end up falling to the Saints 22-17.
Yeah, and he had pressure in his face a lot too. I was able to catch kind of the last couple minutes there in the fourth quarter and did a nice job of the drive before the last drive of the game, getting them into the end zone, giving them a chance to win the game. Obviously did some really good things with his legs. Led the team in rushing. 7 carries, 63 yards. Like I thought, 2 scores on the ground. Did some really good things. And you kind of, I think it was a big thing for him to be able to play the whole game too. Let's talk about another guy. He's obviously been playing. He's in the preseason and things like that, but he hasn't had a lot of live reps like this. So for him to be able to play the entire game, there were some ups and downs. Obviously, turned the ball over 3 times, but for the most part, Easton, again, with a very good performance in the preseason.
Yeah, it was interesting. Brandon Staley also said after the game, somebody was asking, why didn't Max Duggan get a run? And he was like, hey, Easton needs it. We're giving him the snaps. He's got the whole game. So good to see him get a whole game under his belt there for the Chargers and find the end zone a couple of more times. Staying to the NFL, Vikings played on Saturday. They do drop Game 2 of their preseason for what it's worth to the Titans, 24-16 the final. Kirk Cousins did not play. He was on the sideline celebrating his 35th birthday, so that was good to see for Kirk. Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall played at quarterback. Vikings struggled a little bit on offense. Malik Willis was at quarterback for the Titans, and they get the W after an inter-squad week with the Vikings all week long. This is Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell on his team's performance on Saturday night.
As I told our team, very rarely in this league, especially with our mindset towards playing complementary football in all 3 phases, to win the turnover battle 2-0 and not have a little bit better chance to win it in the end. We got it to 1 score there. Just couldn't get that last stop. Tried calling some timeouts and see if maybe we can get one more drive for Jaron. Would have loved to see him in that kind of end of game 2-minute drive, but just didn't come together. Would have too much, really some sloppy things that we totally were in our control in the first half offensively. Had some opportunities to maybe finish those drives with touchdowns, and we just did not do it. And then when we weren't able to get drives going, most of the time penalties, struck again. And I know a lot of these guys aren't getting a ton of reps that are playing in these football games, but still would like to believe that we can play clean football and just simply execute the play called without penalties or mental errors, and we've got to continue to work through that with the group.
Vikings will wrap up their preseason schedule against Arizona over the weekend. Baseball, Twins took 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. They win it 2-0 yesterday behind veteran left-hander Dallas Keuchel, who took a perfect game into the 7th inning. Keuchel 6 1/3, only allowed 1 hit. Perfect game got broken up in the 7th with a double off the wall, but he had been flawless until that point. Doesn't allow a run, no walks, 3 strikeouts for the former Cy Young Award winner. Gives way to the bullpen. Duran comes into the 9th, gets to save his 23rd of the year. 2-0 victory for the Twins. They take 2 out of 3 from the lowly Pirates. Edouard Julien had 2 ribbies. He produced the offense for Minnesota in the game. Twins manager Rocco Baldelli, after the game, talking about his starter, Dallas Keuchel. Hey, Rocco, how would you describe his almost perfect performance?
That was dynamite. I told him, said from the side, because we sit on the side, we don't get the view of everyone else. I said, seeing where his pitches were starting, seeing where his pitches were finishing, height-wise, I think he just was completely locked in on what he needed, and he felt great. Everything looked very crisp. He had command of basically everything today. It was an all-around pretty amazing day for him out there on the mound. It was great.
Indeed it was. Dallas Keuchel, longtime pitcher in the twilight of his career at this point. I think it was only the 3rd start of his entire season for the Twins. He almost takes a perfect game. I'd be pretty shaking in my boots if I had a perfect game going. All the way into the 7th, it was almost real. He ends up going 6 1/3.
Yeah, and the Twins, as we follow along this entire season, it just seems like they just keep finding a way to stay atop. We've had some Rickoff rants, we've had some down times. I guess
we needed you in here, Andy.
But they just keep finding a way to lead that division. Now have a 6-game lead over the Guardians. Dallas Keuchel seems like, at least for one outing, seems like a good pickup there. And it seems like they're gonna get in the playoffs. Like it just feels that way. It's just the question is, and I'm on the prediction board for this, like, can they finally win a playoff series? Now they're leading a division that's not great in the Central, but doesn't matter. It's going to be, can you get in and can you find a way to win a playoff series finally?
Yeah, their starting pitching is good. I mean, that you got Sonny Gray, Lopez is a good pitcher too. The question is this team going to be able to get any kind of offense? I mean, the lineup just doesn't have enough. But I agree with you, Kyle. I think they've got a chance to make the postseason. They should hold serve. Now 6 games up in the Central. Tigers helped out Guardians and not win over the weekend. 65-60 on the year for the Twins. They are off today. 2 games set in Milwaukee starting Tuesday night. And finally, last headline from the weekend. Fargo Little League World Series run comes to an end. The Fargo Little League team eliminated yesterday afternoon. They played Friday night and yesterday lost to Texas on Friday. We're in an elimination game yesterday against Nevada. Had to win it. Falls short. That's the end of the line for the Fargo Little League team, but nonetheless, nothing to hang their heads about. An incredible run. First ever team from the state of North Dakota to make it to the Little League World Series, and they represented pretty darn well. It was neat seeing them on actual ESPN over the weekend and getting the spotlight.
Oh, it was awesome. Bryce Harper was in the broadcast booth. I mean, yeah, I believe they got to go see a Major League Baseball game. Yeah, they should be very proud. As you mentioned, not only the first team from Fargo, first team from North Dakota just to make it there. That Nevada team was really good. I was watching a couple innings of that game. Like, they had some studs. Their shortstop was hitting home runs left and right. It was a really good team, a really good run, and I think, as you mentioned, Stan, they did Fargo proud. And unfortunately, obviously, they would have liked to extend that stay a little bit longer, but props to them for making it and representing the state well.
Yeah, it was cool to see them interact with the ESPN personalities, all the kind of off the field stuff that they got to do. That had to be an awesome experience for the boys. So shout out to the Fargo Little League team. Proud of you guys. Congratulations, and welcome on back home, doing the state and the town proud out there in Williamsport. Those are your weekend headlines. Nicely done there, team. Get you up to date on all of the headlines in the world of sports coming off of the weekend. Move-in day was over the weekend for NDSU students. Some of those students might have been moving into an apartment by our friends over at The Bridges, which makes apartment living easy. Sign a lease now for fall 2024. Get all-inclusive pricing, fully furnished units, a prime location, and one of the lowest deposits in town. Tour The Bridges near NDSU today or online at bridgesnd.com. All right. We are up against a break. We got to kick it to break right here, and then when we come back, we will have the phone lines open for you. 701-476-1660, our Epic Companies hotline. If you want to chime in, we'll get to some calls after this break.
You're listening to The Insiders on your home for NDSU Sports. Bison 1660.
It's Chris Hansen, and for years we have trusted the experts at Rick Electric. Since 1964, Rick Electric has been the go-to for residential, commercial, and industrial. And right now is a great time to consider having a Generac whole home generator installed. If the power goes out, you'll barely notice because of an automatic seamless transition. For work in Fargo, Moorhead, Hawley, Horace, Glendon, Dilworth, Kindred, and everywhere in between, it's Rick Electric at rickelectric.com.
Attention, attention! Are you a plumbing journeyman or apprentice? We want you! The region's fastest growing heating, cooling, and plumbing contractor, Valley Service Mechanical, is looking for journeymen and apprentices, and we're hiring immediately. We offer competitive pay, incentives, and a fun team to work with. If you're not happy where you're at, we'll make it worth your time to check out why you should join the Valley Service Mechanical team. It's easy to apply online today at valleyservice.net. Just click the red banner. That's valleyservice.net.
When it comes to insurance, don't settle for just any policy. Choose to insure with Farmers Mutual of Nebraska and experience a service team that's local to you, backed by over 130 years of industry experience and financial strength. No contact centers and no runaround. Visit fmne.com to contact an agent today for a free, no-obligation quote. Farmers Mutual of Nebraska, always alongside you.
So most companies claim they have good people, good product, good customer service, but the question is how often. We go the extra mile to take care of our dealers and our growers, and more importantly, their families and their customers.
ProSeed tries to bring a family-like experience. Farmers, we want to understand what their challenges are. We also want to bring products to them that help them overcome those challenges so that they can be as successful as possible.
Need seed? Think ProSeed. ProSeed.net. Great seed at a reasonable price.
Here's your Red River Valley weather update on Bison 1660.
A slight chance of some showers and thunderstorms to start off your week, but that should go away as the day goes along. A high of 81 and mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, a low in the low 60s before we come back with a high in the 90s tomorrow. This weather update brought to you by Brady's Service Center. Brady's Service Center has snacks, chips, and beverages to get you on the road fast. They're your one-stop shop for all your automotive and road trip needs in Moorhead.
Crary Industries is looking to add to their assembly team. Assemblers receive a $1,500 sign-on bonus, plus an incentive bonus for those who qualify. Applicants must be able to do basic math, read blueprints, and have experience with small power tools and hand tools. Manufacturing experience is a plus. Crary Industries offers full benefits, an incentive program, and a referral bonus program. Pay is dependent on experience. Apply in person or online at craryindustries.com. That's craryindustries.com.
Your vehicle is likely one of your biggest assets and certainly your ultimate connection to freedom, so it needs to be kept in tip-top shape. And Jiffy Lube of Fargo will make it happen. With no appointment needed, just drive into any of the 3 convenient Fargo locations for their signature service oil change, which includes a check of all your vehicle's vital fluids and an inspection of other preventative maintenance items to ensure you're ready to hit the road. For over 40 years, locally owned Jiffy Lube of Fargo has been the place that Fargo Moorhead has counted on to keep them on the road.
Bison 1660 Guide to Entertainment. Shop, explore, and unwind at the Fargo Park District's Island Park Show this Saturday and Sunday. It's a 2-day festival featuring makers of fine arts and unique crafts. Details online at fargoparks.com. It's the Diamond Days of Summer Sale at Cutting Edge Jewelry. Save 25% off the entire inventory of natural diamonds. 25% off diamonds at Cutting Edge is huge. Get to Sicky's Garage every Wednesday for your chance to win a Street Bob 114 Harley-Davidson motorcycle, a trip to Las Vegas, a trailer, and more.
Here for you, for all the Bison football coverage you can handle.
These guys do an unbelievable job, and you want to know what's going on in Bison sports? Tune into the Insiders.
The Insiders on Bison 1660 and 92.7 FM.
Always like this song. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's a couple years old. It's like feeling good, like I should. Yeah.
I don't know the actual name.
I wanted Kyle. I was waiting you to just start belting it out, start singing it.
Ian, see if you can look that up. We'll get this song name.
I'm on it.
But we're back here on the Insiders. Hope you're having a good Monday. Hope it was a good weekend. Sam, Kyle, and Ian with you. Andy on vacation. Micah on vacation. Josh Pate joined us earlier. Talked a little college football. Good to catch up with him from CBS Sports. And hopefully we can get him up here to Fargo on his Once Upon a Saturday tour. That would be pretty cool. And he's thought about it. He mentioned it, too. He had thought about it, and NDSU has definitely been in consideration for his little spin-off of College Game Day that he takes for his up-and-coming college football show. Took you through some weekend headlines earlier as well. If you miss any of the segments on the show, always check them out on our website, bison1660.com. We podcast everything up for you, interview segments, full show archive. So if you miss it, you can go back to it at your own convenience. Appreciate you being here with us. Later on in the noon hour, we will have an interview with Jaxon Duttenhefer, caught up with NDSU Rising Star defensive lineman during fall camp. That was a fun conversation. We'll have that for you around 12:20. Right now, we're going to go to our Epic Companies hotline. If you want to chime in, 701-476-1660. Mark in America is on the line. Mark, good to have you. How are you?
Hey, Sam, I'm doing well. And you're doing a great job starting off. But I hate to say it's not official yet. It won't be until you've been to Barcode and you get that first hug from Darla Jean.
So I've heard, Mark. So I've heard. That will be my initiation. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think we're at Barcode next week, a week before the game. So looking forward to that for sure, my friend.
Kyle, I got a question for you since you're on today. There's been some rule changes with college football, and from what I understand, it really affects the service academies the most. Kennesaw, Wofford had started to go away from the triple option already, but how big of an impact, and I know you as a defensive lineman probably like the rule change, but what kind of impact is that going to do, and can you go into more detail on what that rule exactly is?
Mark, you're talking about the chop block, right?
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I think I've heard about this rule. There's a couple different rule changes. I know there was some stuff with like timeouts or something like that with some clock issues as well. No, it's interesting. It's obviously when you bring up the triple option, because that's what a lot of triple option teams do. And I grew up watching Nebraska, as I mentioned in the first segment, watching them. That's what they did. And a lot of times when we played Georgia Southern, we played Wofford, like they have smaller offensive linemen that could move, and they would get to the second level, and they would knock people down at the knee. So yeah, as a defensive player, yeah, you like it at times, right? Like it's all about the player safety and things like that. But at the same time, like I don't want to see these offenses disappear either. I kind of like watching them. I think it's fun to watch the Navy and Army and go out there and do something different. It's not just a spread offense. So is it going to be our team's going to go away from it now because it takes away from what they want to do philosophically, offensively? I don't necessarily like that, so we'll have to see. It's interesting with rule changes. It's one thing to see it on paper. It's another to see it actually played out in real life and what it's going to look like. I think we've seen that with the helmet to helmet rule and everything. And sometimes on paper you don't like it or you do like it, and then it plays out and it's different. So we'll have to see how it plays out in 2023, Mark. But yeah, I don't want to see the triple option go away necessarily, and that's just kind of the historic college football fan in me a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's really going to put VMI, Citadel, at least in the FCS, at a big disadvantage because they're, and just like Army and Navy, they're recruiting for, smarts and military abilities, not a 320-pound lineman. They're going to try to squeeze into a submarine.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. It's definitely going to be interesting to see because even like Georgia Tech. No longer. Paul Johnson's no longer there. That was a while ago, but no longer running the triple option there. Appreciate the call, Mark. Good to have you on the show. I think it'll be interesting, Kyle, because this came into effect. The NCAA banning all below-the-waist blocking outside the tackle box, supposed to deter injury. Obviously, it's a big principle when it comes to those triple option attacks. It is a lost art. I do appreciate the football purist in you. I've never been on a team to prepare for a triple option, but I imagine it's all assignment based football, right? It's all gap sound assignment based football as you prepare for a team like that, because that's really the only way to play.
Well, and I just remember, as a linebacker, even in the NFL, that was the biggest part. A big part was learning to play off a cut, and you just we call it a cut block, right? That's what you knew it was coming. It could basically come from anywhere. Now it couldn't come from outside in, I believe, and the chop block's actually when someone's going low and someone's also engaged high, so that's always been illegal. But now it's like you said, outside the tackle box, you'd get these little offensive linemen running around and they're taking down linebackers or whatever outside of the box. Can't do that anymore. Again, part of me is for it because there's been so many rule changes for the offense. We saw I'm forgetting who just got a personal foul, basically glanced the quarterback's helmet. I mean, just touched it. It wasn't a face mask. It wasn't egregious. It was not. I mean, so there's been so many rules for the offensive side that I'm okay with it, because lower body. We've seen it with quarterbacks. You can't hit them low anymore, so I'm okay with it from that standpoint. But also, I just grew up with that was just part of football, so it's kind of weird, kind of seeing that part, potentially disappear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the roughing the passer thing, that's a huge thing that the NFL is going to have to figure out. It was obviously a central storyline over the last couple of years. It's been away as we haven't had
don't
football.
Don't get me started
here.
on that.
But here it comes. Yeah, no, but it'll probably be back. That's what I'm saying. It'll be back once we get this season going. That was such a huge thing. Once we got the 2022 season going, with everything that happened there with roughing the passer in the NFL, it probably might come back again. So.
Well, it's just, and I've said this before, probably right here on the show. It's just I don't know how you tackle the quarterback anymore because you can't hit him low, you can't hit him anywhere high. Everyone thinks, well, yeah, you shouldn't be able to hit the quarterback head to head, and I agree with that. But it's even head or neck area. So if you start at the chest and it slides up and his head goes back at all, it's a penalty. You can't fall on him. You can't hit him low. You can't hit him high. It's it's hard enough to get to the quarterback. So at some point, you just put a flag on him and you just pull it out. I don't know. I play defensive line, so I understand I'm biased in this scenario, and I also understand it's a business, especially in the NFL side. You don't want to see your stars out of the game, so I get all of that. But the whole falling on someone, there's a difference between picking someone up and driving them into the ground, and then just like kind of accidentally all of your weight falls on them. Like there should be kind of a discretion there, and I don't think the NFL is going to change. Maybe they will, but I don't think they will.
No, they won't. The business part of it, you nailed it right there, Kyle. I think you nailed it. And there were some ridiculous ones last year. I'm remembering one on Brady. I forget who it was who just like
and then Brady kicked him, right?
Sniffed him, breathed
and
on
then
him.
Brady
basically
tried to kick him afterwards, and he didn't get flagged for that, of course.
Right. It'll be interesting, but that's one thing you got to keep in mind. Roughing the passer in the NFL, put it on the prediction board. It'll be back this year. That'll be another dialogue that we're having this year.
I think it'll be
for
a long time.
Yeah. No,
there's
going to be a central talking point there. Jim in North Dakota is on the line. Jim, welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in. How are you?
Hey, Sam. Welcome aboard. Can't wait to hear your first touchdown call.
Appreciate it.
Interesting. You have a good voice for calling, so it's going to be fun.
Thank you, Jim.
Couple comments, but as I was listening there, I go back, and Kyle, you might have been in the studio last year when I called and brought up the fact that we need to pick out whether we're going to put pink or yellow or lime green dresses on these quarterbacks so they can be protected more during the game. It's a little bit infuriating what they get for calls these days. There was one just in one of the, I don't remember who was playing the other night in the preseason game that I was watching. The guy came around the outside, and he was going down as he came around the outside, and he hit the quarterback low, and, of course, they threw a 15-yard flag on him. And there was no way that he was falling when he came around the edge. There was no way he was going to do anything but hit the quarterback. There was nothing intentional about it other than, his job is to get in there and tackle the quarterback. But the reason for my call, listening to all this coverage talk, and I guess I've gotten confused, and after talking to a couple of people this weekend, the CBS package only involves basketball and the other sports, not football. Is that correct?
Jim,
are we still going to see we're still going to see football and ESPN Plus and on what I guess DAY? Is that correct?
Yes. So, Jim, you're talking about the Summit League media deal there. And
correct.
Summit League, it houses everything for NDSU aside from football and wrestling being in the Big 12. Football will still be accessible on DAY across the state and locally here, and also on ESPN Plus. That is the Missouri Valley Football Conference. They are under ESPN's deal for that media rights deal. With the Summit League, that's only basketball and then the Olympic sports. So everything else not named football or wrestling. And we had Commissioner Fenton on last week. That'll be 6. They have the opportunity to get 6 regular season basketball games on CBS Sports Network this upcoming season. And both the men's and women's championship games are going to be on CBS Sports Network. So it was a nice linear package there for the Summit League. The rest of the games are not going to be on ESPN Plus. So this is the big thing to realize with the media deal. They will be on Midco Sports Plus, a subscription-based package. I believe it's $9.99 a month to get the Midco package, and then you'll have access to all the other Olympic sports, and if you wanted to stream basketball on the go. Now, basketball, the good thing about the media deal with the Summit League is that they kept it flexible. So the local entities like a DAY that already do Bison basketball get to retain their rights to the broadcast. They will still produce everything. They will still have that locally and across the state in North Dakota. But if you were on the go, you wouldn't be able to watch anymore with Plus. You'd have to get on Midco to watch the streaming. So that's what the lineup looks like for the media coverage this year.
Awesome. I had to check. There was some confusion in the group that I was with this last weekend, and I'm going to be out on the East Coast this weekend, so I need to be able to stream the Bison game, and I just wanted to make sure it was still going to be on ESPN, that there hadn't been any changes for that. So enjoy your first call. Actually, enjoy all of them, hopefully, and glad to have you aboard. You guys got a good duo there in the office right now, so keep it up. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Appreciate you calling in. It's going to be a fun season for sure. So, yeah, that's a good question right there about the media deal. Going to be something to watch out for as NDSU will still be on ESPN Plus, and, of course, Kyle in the booth on DAY for this upcoming season. That is it for hour number 1. Hour number 2 coming up, 11 a.m. hour, presented by Rick Electric, which has been serving the Fargo community for over 56 years, providing excellent electrical services for both commercial and residential electrical needs. Find out what they can do for you online at rickelectric.com. Hour number 2 coming up. Stick with us. Insiders on a Monday.
At Dakota Underground, they value family and teamwork. And for over 40 years, they've remained at the top of the industry. This wouldn't be possible without the dedicated employees who are considered to be family. Like the Bison, Dakota Underground is proud of their accomplishments and know that their success comes from working with the best of the best and settling for nothing less than superior work and service. Dakota Underground, proud member of this community for 4 decades and proud member of Bison Nation. To see open positions or previous projects, visit dakotaunderground.net.
Got inflammation? Hyperbaric Oxygen can help. My name is Menli with Healing with Hyperbarics off of 45th Street here in Fargo. We have been using 100% oxygen to treat inflammation for 5 years with amazing results. Chronic pain, concussions, sports injuries, post-COVID, and more. You don't have to accept your current symptoms as a new normal. There are other treatment options available. Hyperbaric Oxygen helps treat inflammation naturally. Visit our website for more information, healingwithhyperbarics.com.
If there's one thing I know about farmers, it's that they are resilient. This is Scott Zolandic with Cornerstone Bank. Farmers are known to rise to ever-changing challenges, whether it be higher land prices and rent costs, risk management, or diversification. Cornerstone Bank offers an experienced team that you can turn to. If you're looking to save, borrow, or spend, Cornerstone Bank will find the best financial options for business, ag operations, and your personal needs. Come see us at Cornerstone Bank.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Cullen Insulation is dedicated to quality from start to finish, so you have nothing to worry about all year long when it comes to your residential or commercial project. As your local Owens Corning certified energy expert, Cullen Insulation will help make your home quiet, comfortable, and energy smart. Simple home insulation solutions that improve the way you live every day. Cullen Insulation, online at culleninsulation.com. That's culleninsulation.com.
Are you having trouble concentrating, remembering details, and making decisions? Are you tired all the time, irritable, or having trouble sleeping? These symptoms can be normal, but when they become overwhelming and last for long periods of time, it's time to seek medical help. If you're wondering if you're suffering from depression or anxiety, Lakeland Mental Health Center encourages you to get a free and confidential online screening at lmhc.org. Lakeland Mental Health Center. Help today for a better tomorrow.
Gateway Chevrolet's lot is loaded with new Chevy Silverados. Stop by and take a test drive and find out how you can save $7,250 on a new Chevy Silverado at Gateway Chevrolet. The new Silverados are more versatile, more powerful, plus the best looking truck with more technology and safety benefits than any other truck in the market. So head over to Gateway Chevrolet and save $7,250 on a new Silverado with trade, only at Gateway Chevrolet. Find new roads. Details gatewayfargo.com.
KQWB West Fargo, KPFX HD3 Kindred, and K224FD Fargo. Bison 1660, powered by Gateway Chevrolet, Cadillac, Nissan, and Hyundai in Fargo.
And here's what you need to know.
The last remaining running back holdout in the NFL could be returning soon. The Las Vegas Review-Journal reports Raiders running back Josh Jacobs is expected to end his holdout and report to the team prior to their season opener against the Broncos. The New England Patriots are set to honor Tom Brady during their season opener against the Eagles, and Coach Bill Belichick spoke highly of his former quarterback, saying, quote, "One night's really not enough, anywhere close to being enough for the appreciation Tom deserves," close quote. Belichick also said rookie corner Isaiah Bolden is doing a lot better since being carted off the field Saturday night in Green Bay. In college sports, 86 former Northwestern athletes, including several former football players, signed an open letter criticizing school president Michael Schill and athletic director Derek Gregg for a lack of due process prior to the firing of football coach Pat Fitzgerald. I'm Nick Cope.
Bison Pride! Everything we do
This is the Insiders on Bison 1660, covering the world of NDSU sports like no other.
North Dakota State advances to the round of 32. Touchdown, Bison! My, oh my!
The Insiders are presented by Proseed. Need seed? Thank Proseed. Welcome to your Green and Gold HQ for the Bison. The Insiders on Bison 1660 starts now.
Hour number 2 of The Insiders, Monday, August 21st, 2023, just past noon Central Time here in Fargo. Glad to have you with us, coming at you from our First Western Bank Broadcast Center. Sam Dieterman, Kyle Emanuel, and Ian Longton on the board. Hope you had a nice weekend. We are inside 2 weeks from NDSU football coming back. 2023 season begins for the Bison Saturday, September 2 at U.S. Bank Stadium. First ever college football game at U.S. Bank Stadium. NDSU will open up against Eastern Washington, a program that NDSU is very familiar with. Some historic battles against Eastern Washington over the years, including 2018 National Championship game. Many historic moments in Bison history that have involved Eastern Washington. Another chapter will be written less than 2 weeks from now. Excited to share with you a show announcement right here. Later on this week, we will be giving out free tickets to the NDSU season opener at U.S. Bank Stadium. The folks at U.S. Bank, courteous enough to give us 8 free tickets to the season opener. We'll be giving away 2 pairs of tickets throughout the rest of this week by playing a little Bison football trivia. So, if you call into the show beginning tomorrow and through the rest of the week and can answer a trivia question about Bison football correctly, you have a chance to win 2 free tickets to the season opener at U.S. Bank and get you there for September 2nd. See the Bison up close at the home of the Vikings. First ever college football game there. Pretty sweet deal. All you got to do is answer a trivia question. Call in. We'll tease it. We'll give it to you. As we go throughout the shows here, we'll say, hey, next segment coming up, we're going to have callers in. Call in. We've got the trivia question for you. So do your homework. Get ready. It will be multiple choice, so you do get a little buffer there. But all you got to do is answer one. It's not multiple rounds. You just got to get one right. And if you can get it right, you'll have a chance to go to U.S. Bank for the season opener. We're giving away 2 tickets and 8 tickets in total, so you can win a pair of tickets to the U.S. Bank Stadium opener for NDSU. Bison football trivia, that's coming up later the rest of this week. Happy to have that with you. Kyle, these trivia questions, we've got to cook them up here. We're going to have to put the listeners to the test. There's so much to pick from. We had the mystery match game earlier. Matt Grosick was the mystery Bison player that was eventually discovered after weeks and weeks.
Yes.
So
that was one So me, Micah, and Andy sat here. I don't know if this was revealed, and we kind of all came up with one each, and then came to the table, and we had a little round table discussion on which one might be the best one. So Matt Grotzik was my pick, and he was eventually our pick, and that was a good one. So if you need some consultation for the trivia, I will be available. You know where to find me, and I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, we'll get that all together. So be sure to listen in. You have a chance to win tickets to the season opener at U.S. Bank Stadium on September 2nd by playing a little Bison football trivia throughout the week here, giving them away as we count down to kickoff for NDSU. We'll do a little NDSU fall camp updates here. Their fall camp technically done now, Kyle, now that school is back in session today. It still is here, but the camp portion of it without any school is done. Fun stuff at practice on Saturday. I was there, and Cole Menz was awarded a scholarship, which was really cool to see. Bison defensive lineman who played a lot last year with Eli Mostart being out. He was awarded a scholarship. President Cook actually came out to announce it right as practice started. Great reaction from the teammates for Cole, and well-deserved as he is now on full scholarship and can enjoy the benefits of that as he goes into this 2023 season after a very impressive 22 campaign.
Yeah, more than well-deserved. You know, when I saw this news, I was actually kind of surprised that Cole Menz wasn't on scholarship already because, as you mentioned, he was a key contributor. Played a lot a year ago, and this is a position that we've talked about a ton on this show. And defensive end, defensive line in general, you're going to rotate a lot of guys. So, yes, you're going to have your starters. You're going to have your guys that are going to go in on key key third downs and things like that. But like, you're gonna rotate, you're gonna play a lot of guys, and Cole Menz was one of those guys a year ago, and will probably, I would assume, continue to be that type of player. So obviously did enough to show the coaches to get on scholarship, and it's always cool. I mean, we've seen these stories a lot, right? Not just from NDSU, but from all over the country and in various sports, and it's always a cool moment to see someone who's walked on, who's paid their own way, who's grinded through everything that is to be a Division I athlete, and then to kind of see that get paid off with a scholarship. So congratulations to Cole. I know that was a very cool moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that D-line, as we mentioned, going to be a deep room for the Bison this season. Looking at a couple other things to keep an eye on as camp, you put the final touches on it. It will be a little more Eastern Washington focused for the Bison as you get into this week. I'm curious, Kyle, about offensive line combinations with this group, because there are plenty. You're at the point in camp where you're cross-training guys, you're mixing and matching. You got to be prepared in case somebody goes down, and that was the case last year. Multiple injuries to the Bison offensive line. Thankfully, those players back and healthy. Jalen Sundell is healthy again after injuring his foot 5 games in. Mason Miller is back after breaking his leg late in the season. You're going to see multiple combinations as we continue to go throughout camp, but I'll be very curious to see what that offensive staff thinks is their best 5 going forward. What do you do with Sundell? Traditionally a center. He has been taking snaps at left tackle, a lot of reps there. We saw Brandon Westberg fill in at center last season in Sundell's absence. Where do you put him? Mason Miller back in the fold, Jake Kubis back in the fold. You got a lot of options there in that line. I'm going to be curious to see what the best starting 5 they can find is.
Yeah, I am too. And it's one of those good problems to have. And it was an unfortunate circumstance, but they've seen that, even going all the way back to the spring season, like, you've had to rotate guys. You've had to find your best 5. And that's why the offensive line is such a unique position, because of usually most guys can play at least 2 positions. Can you find that guy that can play maybe all 5 or at least 4? Guard tackle, can you be your swing tackle? So when someone goes down, he's a guy you plug in. Or maybe you plug him in at a certain spot, let's say right tackle or whatever. Now your right tackle is actually your second best left guard. I mean, there's so many different combinations, as you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Jalen Sundell, very talented player. Saw him go down a year ago. I thought Brandon Westberg filled in really well. So do you keep him off the field? I don't think you can. You feel like you want to get both of them on the field, but what is that best combination? I think that's going to be something obviously to look at. You got Jake Rock there, who has played a ton of football as well. There's always the Ogre package as well, with Cody Malcolm made famous. So there's no shortage of combinations that they can find with the offensive line group, and it could even be at a tight end, like I mentioned, with the Ogre package. So they've got some talent there, and it's and Andy and I have talked about this throughout the summer. It's like we always kind of overlook the offensive line a little bit, because you just assume it's NDSU. We've had a really good offensive line for so many years, but you lost Nash Jensen and Cody Malcolm a year ago, 2 guys you have to replace, but also you're replacing with guys that have played, right? So it's kind of unique that we kind of overlook it, but maybe there's a good reason for it, because you're not replacing with true freshmen or guys who haven't played a lot. There's a lot of experience in that room, and that's going to be a key. Is that offensive line, finding the 5 best that can obviously run the football, as we know NDSU wants to do.
I think the other good thing too, Kyle, is they got time to figure it out if they do need to figure it out. Not like it's going to be a glaring issue or anything like that, but you look at the schedule, I think you've got a few weeks to ease in, find what works before you get to Valley play and before the intensity gets ramped up a little bit. You don't play a road game until October, right? A true road game. And, you look at September, those are easy games for the Bison to handle their business. I think Sundell's a wild card, right? Do you put him at center? Do you put him at tackle? If you put him at tackle, you put Westberg at center. That's kind of what you saw last week, and you give him sort of the torch, so to speak, filling in for Cody Malcolm, that left tackle spot as that veteran of the O-line. But the good news is, as you mentioned, you have options. You have depth. Jake Rock, who Kyle mentioned, is a guy that Coach Entz has talked a lot about, providing some depth on the offensive line. Hunter Pontius as well. These are guys that are going to be crucial for NDSU to have as you want to carry 8 to 10 in that room and continue to have a second string that is formidable, as you can see if injuries and attrition end up striking. Another one to look at is running back room. We talk a lot about Tamarick Williams, and I think it was kind of set out at the beginning of fall camp. Hey, this guy's on the Walter Payton Award watch list. He's a candidate for that, and could have the biggest carry share of the Bison backfield this year. Andy and I have talked a lot about it. Barika Panu, TK Marshall, these guys are not to be slept on this year. You know, seeing them at practice over the last couple of days, the strides that they have made, they will be big contributors, and they will get their share of carries as well. I think NDSU, for even losing Kobe Johnson and Hunter Lipke, should feel pretty good about the stable that it has behind Tamarick as far as running back depth goes.
Well, and I just said this about the offensive line. You kind of overlook it. You could almost say the same thing about running back because NDSU's just been so good. It's just been the next guy, not even the next guy up. It's you've rotated a couple of guys, and now it's that maybe the guy that was like second fiddle the year before. Now he's the number one. You already feel really good about that, and you could say the exact same thing this year. Yeah, you lose some good guys there, and it seemed like a year ago the conversation around the running back room was, how do you get all these guys carries? Because there were so many guys that are returning with a lot of experience that have played a lot of football and done some really good things. And now this year, I think Tamarick Williams, for the first time in a while, you feel like this is a back that could be an every down back. And there's been other guys, but there's just been so many that they've rotated a lot of guys. And I think they'll continue to do that. But Tamarick Williams definitely feels like a guy who you could leave in there first, second, third down, like you're going to feel good about him. Everyone thinks of him as, and I know you guys had this conversation with Tyler Rowley, everyone thinks of this big bruising back, but that's not necessarily all he does. He's not a one-trick pony like that. He can do a lot of different things. So I'm excited to see, I am excited for Tamarick Williams. I'm also, interested to see what the rotation looks like. I know Barika Panu's done some really good things in the offseason. He's looking ready to go. TK Marshall, we saw him emerge a year ago. But when you look at Tamarick, and if he kind of got off to slow starts in his first 2 years and then really came on. Last year was dealing with an injury. The year before, he just transferred in with a full, healthy offseason under his belt going into year 3. What does that look like? And I think he's on the Walter Payton Award watch list for a good reason. You think, who's going to be the featured back of a team that we know that's going to run the ball, and we know that's going to run the ball well? Throw him on the list because there's a good chance.
Well, Hunter Lipke, I mean, if he was healthy, he would have been in that conversation
absolutely.
Last year. He would have been. I think that's something that a lot of people forget, which is a shame because of the magical year that Hunter was having before he ended up going down. There will be a chance there for Tamarick, and there is a lot of depth to be had there at running back. And I think it's a good point, too, Kyle. What does that rotation look like? Because Tamarick has talked about it. He feels like he's improved his catching ability. He wants to be that every down type of back for the Bison this season. Looking at defensively, still a little battle for that 3 and 4 spot at corner. What kind of depth do the Bison feature there? Looking like the top two are going to be Jaden Price, who, as we know, will be your number one corner, and then Marcus Shepard, the Bowling Green transfer, is going to be that opposite corner. Who's going to back them up? That's still to be seen as guys continue to try and jockey for that spot. So we'll see who can emerge. It could be some new faces. We've heard Najee Nelson's name thrown around. Raja's younger brother, who's a freshman. It'll be interesting to see what happens there in the Bison secondary as far as the depth at corner goes.
Well, and Andy won't let you forget about Reggie King. Obviously, you know that. But there's a lot of guys, and I've heard interviews with Coach Entz, and he's bringing up guys that that aren't even necessarily brought up or asked about, and he's bringing them up for a reason, right? And I think the secondary is the biggest question. Talk about offensive line, running back. You can overlook those maybe a little bit because you feel good about, the secondary is completely new outside of Jaden Price. So you look at the safety, you look at the corner, who's going to end up being the nickel as well when you go to the nickel package. Is that going to be a safety? Is that going to be a corner? Who's going to be the rotational guys? It's a fun year. Obviously you're excited for every single year, but there's some questions, but I think it's not like alarming, right? Because safety is another position for the longest time. NDSU's had such good success there, and it's just been the next guy up. It's been the Michael Tutsi in 2019 when people are like, who's this guy? Oh, we're nervous. We just thought it was Robbie Grimsley at that time or James Henry. It's like, oh, we're nervous about that. So, and all he did was play, 7 years it felt like, and had really good success. And so there's always been someone there. And I know I'm kind of going off of corner here for a little bit, but like obviously Cole Wisniewski, and that's been the biggest talking point maybe of the offseason is the fact that, I would make the argument he was maybe one of the best linebackers a year ago when he was healthy. And now you're moving him. So then there's the linebacker position that I know we'll get into as well, but a lot of talent at that position as well. What does that look like? It's fun. It's fun, and it's kind of interesting because there's so many question marks, but it's not necessarily like we don't think there's guys there that can play, but it's going to be who, because there's been so many guys going back to the COVID season that have played football, but haven't necessarily been the guy, haven't been the starter before. So how does that rotation look like at a number of positions?
Yeah, Kyle, I think there's no better person to talk about it than you as a member of Code Green and being on that side of the ball in your Bison career. But that's one of the big things with this squad this year is what will this defense do as a unit, right? Coming off of a year statistically, so against the run, I want to say most yards allowed since 09 or 10, most points allowed since 09 or 10, long stretches there, and bringing in Jason Petrino to freshen things up a little bit. I think that's one of the biggest things to watch this year is just what does this defense look like as a whole.
And I like to simplify it. Go real simple. When I've shared this story before. When I was playing, our coach would give us this little test before every game, right? And at the end, I'd always say, "What is the key to the game?" And I would write the same thing every week, and not just to be monotonous and just be like, "Oh, I don't want to answer this." It's because I truly believed it, and it was stop the run. That was the first thing I wrote every single time because it makes everyone's jobs easier from so many standpoints. You get teams off schedule. Now their offensive coordinators scrambling. Okay, well, I don't really have a play for 2nd and 11. I don't have a play for 3rd and 14. You know, it makes the secondary's job easier. It made my job easier as a defensive lineman in rushing the passer.
Yeah, then you could tee off.
There's nothing that they can do on the ground. So yeah, I'll go real simple. And it wasn't like it was bad, but when you have to compare to your NDSU standard, right? And it just wasn't the same. But when it comes to stopping the run, but you got a lot of experience back there. You got a guy that was injured for basically the entire season in Eli Mostart who's going to be back. You have a lot of linebackers back. Now, you do lose your leading tackler in James Kaiser, but still a lot of guys that have played. Can the front seven, can the run defense be better? Can it be not even better, just can it be dominant? Can it be the focal point? Because last year you would look at it, and I think statistically NDSU was one of the best teams against the pass. Well, now the secondary has these question marks, right? So now it's, how are teams going to attack that? And what does it look like under Jason Petrino? I think a lot of it's going to be the same. Obviously, you're not going to change the entire playbook. I don't think Coach Entz would have done that if he thought he was going to blow everything up. But there's going to be different wrinkles, and every single coordinator is going to call a game slightly different. So what does that look like? Is his philosophy, I like to stop the run by playing 8 in the box, but we're going to play zone coverage behind it, or is it going to be I like run blitzes? I like a lot of D-line movement. I like whatever it could be. You can do all that within the same defense. It's just what do you like? What do you put into the game plan? As you probably have learned, covering football for a long time, there's a lot of plays in a playbook. Only so many of them make it to game day. So what is that going to look like? I'm excited to see that in week 1.
Well, it also kind of reminds me too, man, of what Josh Pate said earlier about Nick Saban and coordinators. It all depends on the mentality, right? You could bring in 50 of them, but and scheme is great. I love talking ball too, but mentality at the end of the day is going to be king, and you can sense it with this Bison Ball Club right now. We talked about it too, coming off of media days and stuff. Unified message, right? Guys are in sync. They're bought in, and especially with respect to what we're talking about, getting Code Green back to the NDSU level that we're accustomed to.
I think one thing to look at, this is completely no one would look at this except for maybe a former player. If you want to kind of gauge the energy level, especially on the defensive side of the ball, just look at how they celebrate with each other. I remember when I was playing, It was like you were in trouble if you did not run over and celebrate. Like if you look at some of the highlights when I was playing, like I was just ridiculously celebrating with teammates. And because you didn't realize it at the time, like that demoralizes the offense. Like when everyone's gathered up, they're all fired up, they're running after each other and celebrating every single good play. Obviously, I'd say that's one thing to look at in week 1 in terms of what's the energy level, what's the mentality as you speak about, Sam. Check that out.
Yeah, all right, Kyle's keys right there. A little tell to watch. Yeah, I feel you, man. You got to fly. Defense is fun, man. I remember playing football growing up, man. They fly around, right? That's what you got to do, and there are no rules when it comes to that. So I will say, seeing some of the team periods in practice right now, defense makes a good play on offense, gets a turnover, whatever it is. Celebrations have been pretty good. So there's your indicator.
I love it.
Awesome, man. We've had a lot here on the show. If you missed it earlier, Josh Pate talked some college football in the first hour. That was good. Took you through some weekend headlines with the Twins, Vikings, Trey Lance, Easton Stick all getting NFL preseason action as well. And the Bison rolling on in fall camp here as we're less than 2 weeks away from the U.S. Bank Stadium opener. We are giving away tickets to that game later this week. If you want to play some Bison football trivia, call in. We'll give you a trivia question. If you answer it correctly, you score 2 tickets to the September 2 opener down at U.S. Bank Stadium. Want to remind you about our friends at The Bridges. They make apartment living easy. Sign a lease now for fall 2024 and get all-inclusive pricing, fully furnished units, a prime location, and one of the lowest deposits in town. Tour The Bridges near NDSU today or online at bridgesnd.com. We got to take a break. When we come back, Jaxon Duttenhefer, NDSU defensive lineman. We caught up with him in fall camp. An in-depth conversation with him as he looks forward to building off of the big-time 2022 that he had last year. That's next on The Insiders.
This is The Insiders on your home for NDSU sports. Bison 1660.
We take great pride in really doing all the research and the work behind the scenes to make sure that our products just work.
We have our own staff member that helps pick the hybrids and the varieties that work in our area. It's meant for you, not for somebody 200 miles away.
We test our seed locally. We produce our seed locally, so we get to see our production fields, where they need to be, and if they work there.
Need seed? Think ProSeed. ProSeed.net. Great seed at a reasonable price.
Attention, attention! Are you an electrical journeyman or apprentice? Then we want you. JDP Electric is looking for journeymen and apprentices, and we're hiring immediately. JDP offers competitive pay, incentives, and a fun team to work with. If you're not happy where you're at, we'll make it worth your time to check out why you should join the JDP team. JDP is a family-owned and operated business that's been around this region for over 20 years. Apply online at jdpelectric.net. Start your new tomorrow today. Come be a part of the JDP difference.
At Dakota Underground, they value family and teamwork. And for over 40 years, they've remained at the top of the industry. This wouldn't be possible without the dedicated employees who are considered to be family. Like the Bison, Dakota Underground is proud of their accomplishments and know that their success comes from working with the best of the best and settling for nothing less than superior work and service. Dakota Underground, proud member of this community for 4 decades and proud member of Bison Nation. To see open positions or previous projects, visit DakotaUnderground.net.
Bison football is right around the corner, and there is no better place to be than Gate City Bank Field at the Fargo Dome. Single game tickets are now available. Pick from 6 home games, including the home opener September 9th versus the University of Maine. The march is on, and the Bison need you in the stands all season long. Get your tickets today by visiting GoBison.com, by calling 231-NDSU, or at the Bison ticket office in the south lobby of the Sanford Health Athletic Complex. Bison football. Don't miss a moment.
Hey Bison Nation, it's Kyle Emanuel, and I found out firsthand that determining what insurance plan you need can actually be easy. You just need someone that you trust. That's why I use the good neighbors over at the Ryan Kill State Farm Agency. There was nothing hard, overwhelming, or frustrating about it. We talked about my priorities and what I cared about protecting the most. He gave me his recommendations and I decided what made the most sense for me. No pressure, no hidden agenda, just one good neighbor looking out for another.
If you want a good neighbor on your sideline, reach out by going to RyanKillInsurance.com. The Bison 1660 crew is on the road again with the Bison Road Tour, brought to you by The Bridges. Check out Bison1660.com for a full list of dates and locations for all of our stops on the Bison 1660 Road Tour as another season of Bison football gets going. We give away Bison swag exclusively from CI Sport, plus Bison football tickets and the world-famous NDSU yard signs at each stop. Plenty of stops around town and a chance for you to watch the Insiders live. The Bison 1660 Road Tour is brought to you exclusively by The Bridges Apartments.
Luther Family Ford works hard every day to give the community the best customer service in all their departments. The sales team is always ready to help, and they are delighted to have a great selection of new Ford trucks and SUVs on the lot. They invite you to stop by for a test drive. You'll enjoy working with the sales department, service department, and parts. Or, if you are thinking of selling your current vehicle, they will pay cash for it. Visit with their sales staff today or shop online, LutherFamilyFord.com.
Here's your Red River Valley weather update on Bison 1660.
A slight chance of some showers and thunderstorms to start off your week, but that should go away as the day goes along. A high of 81 and mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, a low in the low 60s before we come back with a high in the 90s tomorrow. This weather update brought to you by Brady's Service Center. Brady's Service Center has snacks, chips, and beverages to get you on the road fast. They're your one-stop shop for all your automotive and road trip needs in Moorhead.
Hanson Runsvold Funeral Home proudly supports the Bison and appreciates the commitment each student makes to its success. Whether in the arts or other campus activities, these students are our country's future and deserving of our support. Hanson Runsvold is dedicated to helping families look to the future with hope and remember what we do today shapes our memories for tomorrow. Add the Bison experience and live life to the fullest. Hanson Runsvold Funeral Home, an experienced and caring staff with a distinct attention to detail.
Hail the Bison right here, your home for NDSU sports. This is Bison 1660.
12:31 Central here on the Insiders Hour number 2, rolling along. Back here with you in our First Western Bank Broadcast Center. Sam, Kyle, and Ian with you. Hope you're having a great start to your Monday. We caught up with NDSU defensive lineman Jaxon Duttenhefer during Fall Camp Media Day a number of days ago and had an outstanding conversation with a young man from Mandan, North Dakota. Missouri Valley Football Conference all-newcomer team last year as he was thrown into the fold after the injury of Eli Mostard. He took over and totaled 33 tackles for the Bison, becoming a stout presence on the NDSU defensive front. I caught up with him at Media Day to ask him about his goals for this season and what his breakout year in 2022 meant. Take a listen. Here with NDSU defensive lineman Jaxon Duttenhefer as the Bison prepare for the 2023 football season. Jaxon, great to have you on. Take me through the preparations here in fall camp. How have you and your teammates grown and developed here over the last few weeks as you gear up for kickoff?
Well, I think it actually kind of starts in the summer. Coach Kramer getting all of us right here. Obviously, we have to lift every morning, run every afternoon. That's the bond that I feel like really starts the fall camp bond as well. Because we think you got to start fast and you got to finish strong. As we start fast here in the summer and now we get to fall camp, this is now where we start the actual in-season process. And going through the summer together, going through all the conditioning workouts and everything that we need to, almost kind of makes fall camp a little bit easier than it probably does for most programs throughout the nation. But as fall camp's really kicked off here, obviously, you got your bumps and bruises, your soreness. You're not kind of used to the hitting at times, but it's been really well. There's been a lot of learning going on between the young guys and even the old guys. A lot of the old guys stepping up to teach some of the young guys some of the ins and outs of being a Bison, and that's across the board. It's been a really good past week, and we look forward to the next week.
Take me back to your first year here with the program. I'm sure your first fall camp was a little different than the one that you're in year 3 now.
Yeah, I believe that first fall camp was much hotter than year 3 right now. It feels like it was just yesterday, but at the same time, it's been a long time. It was a big learning curve, and it doesn't matter what level of college you play at, whether it's D3 all the way up to FBS. You're gonna have a big learning curve. Coming out of high school, you have to use your hands a lot more. The speed of the game so much quicker. You have to understand where you need to fit in the defense. The mental game it's like drinking out of a fire hose. All that install that you have to go through that your first 5 days it's insane. But it's a process. And the faster you buy in, the more you watch your film, the more you understand. It gives you more opportunities to go out and play on the field.
Oh, speaking of that, Jaxon, last year, your first year of action, and you made it count. All Missouri Valley Football Conference newcomer team, 33 tackles, 6 for loss, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. How big was last year for you as you continue in your development?
I want to say it gave me a little bit more confidence in my abilities. Obviously, when you play up against the green and gold in fall camp and spring ball, you're just going up against Bison, but getting to see yourself against other competition and getting to prove to others, whether it's your coaches, the fans, and especially yourself, that, hey, I can go out and do this. I'm from middle of North Dakota. I'm a homegrown kid, and, hey, I can do this on the biggest stage.
You mentioned your roots from Mandan, North Dakota. You grew up watching this Bison football program. Now you represent it on the field. How cool is that dream now becoming a reality for you?
It's a dream come true. It's giving me goosebumps here just kind of thinking about it. it's awesome getting to like go back home and I have the ability to, whether it's holidays or 4th of July, once we're done with school, and get back and see my old coaches, see my old teachers, see some of my old friends. But be walking around, I'll be shopping somewhere in the mall, and people will come up to be like, "Hey, you had a great season. You're doing awesome. Keep it up." And it makes me, it humbles me, being able to go here and live out every kid's dream who's ever lived in North Dakota, watching the Bison grow up. And I get to show kids like, hey, it doesn't matter where you're from, they're going to find you, and being able to go out and prove like, hey, you can do this. You put your mind to it, you grind, you work hard, both in the weight room, off the field, in the classroom. You can come here and play, and you can do well.
What are some of your early memories of watching this Bison football program? Who are some of your favorite players, some of your favorite moments when you watched NDSU growing up?
The one that really comes to mind was the Iowa game. I remember watching that game, sitting down, and like it's like, oh, this is cool. Iowa's ranked, and then, shoot, we beat them, And I'm trying to remember. I think it was later that year, Iowa got back in the rankings, and I think they ended up beating like the number 2 team. I think it was like, I don't know, it might have been Auburn at that time. I'm trying to remember it, but it was like, wow, like, holy cow, like, NDSU is obviously, like, I loved them growing up, but it's like, they can really compete, and it's like, obviously they're doing something right. And, players, oh my gosh, I mean, you could listen, Greg Menard, Phil Hansen, even from back in the 90s. I mean, my parents have been telling me about him ever since I was a little kid, so, it's been cool watching them like just continue to have the success that they did, and giving me the opportunity to actually come here and do this. It's something I will never take for granted.
Wow, I love hearing that, man. First game in the Fargo Dome, what was it? Do you remember?
Oh, the first game I actually got to suit up for. I think it was Valpo. It was our second game of the year. It would have been my first year here, thanks to the redshirt 4-game rule. That was the first game I suited, and that was actually the first game I played, if I remember correctly. Oh my gosh, I was just shaking. I was jittery. I was nervous. It's going through the pregame, and then running out of that helmet the first time. It's something I will never forget. It's something you dream about, and I don't think I went to bed that night. I'm not gonna lie. I was so hyped up on adrenaline. I was so happy. It's just that full circle thing, and now getting that ability to contribute and do that week in and week out for the Bison now, I'm really blessed. It's something I don't take for granted, and it's only 5 years. I only get 5 years here, and it's like 5 years is a long time, but at the same time, it's still limited. So I kind of live in the moment. I try to take every moment that I get here, and it's been worth it. It's been fun.
You got to make them count. In the classroom, you are an accounting major. Bold choice, my friend. Take me through the rigors of that study and how you got into it. What made you decide that that's what you wanted to go with here at NDSU?
Well, actually, back in high school, my sophomore year, we have accounting classes that are offered through our business side of our high school. So I actually got to take 3 years of accounting in high school, which was really cool, especially coming to college, and you ask like, hey, have you ever learned accounting when you're in your like entry-level accounting class? You're like, this is the first accounting class I've ever taken. I don't even know what a debit and credit is. So it's a different experience that I got compared to most accounting majors. But it put me ahead of the game. I came in with 27 college credits from high school. So I got to really start hitting my major right away. I'll actually graduate already in the spring. It's been really fun to continue to learn more about accounting, even though some of those classes and some of those homework assignments, I mean, it's tough. You're sitting there and number crunching for a couple hours every night at times, and but it's been good. It gave me some opportunities. Took an internship this past summer with Ide Bailey. It continues to help my mental, to also take away from just the X's and O's to actually putting numbers and dollars and cents together. It's just kind of how my mind works, and I don't know. It's kind of satisfying seeing the numbers balance in the end of the day. It's just kind of how my brain ticks, and I love it.
Love to hear that. Jaxon defensive line room this year has a lot of depth. A lot of that begins with getting our All-American back. Eli Mostert is healthy again. Can you speak to having Eli back and then also what you've seen from the rest of your teammates on the defensive line?
For sure. Last season when Eli went down, obviously it's a heartbreaker for me as a friend to him, as a teammate for him. But at the same time, it gave guys like me and Cody Heisman the ability to step up. It's the next man up mentality. I feel like you got to look at the positives. And, with Eli going down last season, it gave me and Cody a ton of experience that we probably wouldn't have got without him going down. And it's going to really help us out this year. You know how it is with NDSU. We rotate a lot of guys up front, keeps us fresh, keeps us clean, keeps us crisp. And by doing that, I feel like that depth is really going to help us here. Gives us a lot more experience up front. With all 5 of us now, there's a lot of games underneath our belts and a lot of time that we spent together as a group. We just kind of know how we kind of click, and we all hang out pretty much all the time, get sushi every now and then, but it adds a lot of camaraderie, and it's really fun to be with them.
What's your sushi spot? I've been looking for a good one here in Fargo.
Izumi, call them out. It's all you can eat for $29.95 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but a roll's like $10 a piece whenever you go somewhere else. So, we'll sit down. Our first order will be like 7-8 rolls, and we'll just kind of chow from there.
I love it, man. I love it. Jaxon, I appreciate you taking the time and looking forward to watching you ball out this season. Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's NDSU defensive lineman Jaxon Duttenhefer, our fall camp conversation right there, and a good one. Well-spoken young man, and excited to see what he does for this upcoming 2023 Bison football season. Would like to remind you about our friends at CI Sport, 33 years and counting. CI Sport, #1 in corporate, resort, collegiate, and high school apparel. Whether it's for work or play, every day is game day at CI Sport. CI Sport offers competitive pricing and fast turnaround time so you can work harder, play harder, and cheer harder in style. Visit them online at cisport.com. Got to take a break right here. When we come back, wrap it up the show. Sam, Kyle, and Ian with you here on a Monday on The Insiders.
A sports talk station that Bison Nation deserves. Bison 1660.
My friends at Northern Stone continue to amaze me. I love how they can help many size projects and budgets, but you really need to experience their brand new full-size granite slabs that are exceptional. They are truly a work of art that comes 100% from nature. Show-stopping, jaw-dropping pieces that will make an impression no matter how many times you walk in the room. These amazing granite slabs will make your office a grand, tasteful showplace, or in your home or lake home, unforgettable. See for yourself at Northern Stone.
Hi, Jeff from a Cutting Edge Gallery of Jewelry. It is the diamond days of summer. So what does that mean for you folks? Well, come on over to a Cutting Edge where we have our entire natural diamond inventory on sale. You will save 25% of every single stone we have. Never before have we been able to offer such a great savings. So come on over to a Cutting Edge Gallery of Jewelry, 4507 33rd Avenue South, Fargo.
Dakota Refrigeration, now known as DRI, has been serving Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Montana for over 4 decades. Locally owned and operated since 1974, DRI is a full-service source for your refrigeration, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and electrical service needs. From the entryway to the kitchen, from hot to cold, from dreary to bright, DRI has you covered. DRI, formerly Dakota Refrigeration, with locations in Fargo, Bismarck, and Minot, online at dacref.com.
Hey, business owners, when it's project time, you've got your plumber, you've got your electrical guy, but do you have your window guy? Now you do. Dabtech Window Services. Dabtech is your local door and window expert. Do you have a cracked window? Maybe your windows fog up and create too much condensation. Or maybe you just want new, big, and beautiful clear windows or doors. Dabtech can custom create whatever you need. Top-rated products with experienced technicians that do it right the first time. Dabtech, a decade of service with a century of experience. Online at dabtechwindowservices.com.
Inside 10, what a move, cutting to the end zone, touchdown.
September 2nd, NDSU kicks off the 2023 football season at U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. Our Bison 1660 coverage will be live from Day Block Brewing Company, blocks away from the stadium, giving you all the pregame information you need up to kickoff between the Bison and Eastern Washington. Hang out with us on Saturday, September 2nd at Day Block Brewing Company in Minneapolis as we open up the 2023 season.
Harvest season is right around the corner. It's time to get your equipment in gear. Horn Plastics marks 40 incredible years in the business, so why trust anyone else? They've got the inventory and unbeatable discounts to make sure your trucks are ready to roll, including their game-changing Super Slide bed liners, the secret to smoother operations and protected cargo. Built tough, built durable, the Super Slide bed liners are engineered to last, saving you time and money. Join the countless satisfied customers who have trusted Horn Plastics over the years. To learn more, visit hornplastics.com.
Hey Bison Nation, our Bison 1660 studio is now the First Western Bank Broadcast Center. That means when we have guests like Matt Larson, Matt Entz, and others around NDSU, they come into the First Western Bank Broadcast Center. When you're listening to NDSU football, men's basketball, or anything else NDSU athletics, it's originating from the First Western Bank Broadcast Center. And even when you listen to the Insiders for all the latest on NDSU athletics, it's coming to you live from the First Western Bank Broadcast Center. First Western Bank and Trust. You can bank on us.
At Cardinal IG, they don't just create innovative glass solutions, they foster a culture of collaboration and teamwork. Their employees bring a wealth of experience and expertise to every project and deserve to be celebrated. This August, Cardinal IG would like to shine the spotlight on Ollie Noor, who is celebrating 20 years, Okabai Eaves celebrating 10 years, Taiwu Solomon and Daniel Mawa both celebrating 5 years at Cardinal IG. From the entire team, thank you. To view open positions or to apply, visit cardinalfargo.com.
Are you concerned about skin cancer? Discover a revolutionary solution without surgery. Fargo Center for Dermatology is the exclusive skin cancer center in North Dakota to offer IG SRT, the non-surgical treatment for skin cancer. Imagine pain-free treatments that are quick and non-invasive. IG SRT treats basal cell cancer and squamous cell cancer effectively without leaving a surgical scar. Call or visit fargoderm.com to learn about your treatment options.
Fargo Center for Dermatology, providing beauty and confidence at every age.
Cullen Insulation is dedicated to quality from start to finish, so you have nothing to worry about all year long when it comes to your residential or commercial project. As your local Owens Corning certified energy expert, Cullen Insulation will help make your home quiet, comfortable, and energy smart. Simple home insulation solutions that improve the way you live every day. Cullen Insulation, online at culleninsulation.com. That's culleninsulation.com.
Missed portions of today's show? Go to Bison1660.com to listen to the podcast or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Bison1660.
All right, welcome back on into our First Western Bank Broadcast Center. Insiders here on a Monday, getting the week off to a good start. Sam Niederman, Kyle Emanuel, and Ian Longton doing a great job on the board. Andy wrapping up his long weekend. He'll be back in studio tomorrow. Excited to have him back. And Micah also wrapping up his extended vacation. He was out on Friday, also out again here on Monday. So he took the 4-day plan. And we talked about it too, Kyle. We thought that vacations were done. Like, school's back in session. Summer's been over. I thought this was over, but the boys are just taking their sweet time here.
They had to sneak one last little vacation in, I guess. You know, Micah's he's been on a lot this year. And I understand Andy had to get some in. Kind of left you high and dry. But, hey, for me, it was good. I got to hang out with you. This is our first show going together, so it's been fun.
Yeah, enjoyed it too, man. Enjoyed it for sure. But excited to have those guys back in studio as we keep going. But a great job by everybody here holding down the fort here on the Insiders. Appreciate you getting involved. We do have about 6-7 minutes. If you do want to get in here, Epic Company's hotline is open. If you want to get a call in, squeeze it in at the end of the show, 701-476-1660. Kyle does have a question here, talking a little pro Bison NFL quarterbacks. We were talking about this earlier. Trey Lance played in the Niners preseason game, led them to a close win over the Broncos. Easton Stick started the whole game for the Chargers yesterday. Interesting to see how those guys continue to pan out in their roles. What do you got there, brother?
Yeah, so I'll just pose a question like I'm calling in to our Epic Companies hotline because I saw some other people talking about this, and I thought this was an interesting question. I don't know if you can necessarily give a straight answer to it because it's kind of hard to predict, but So the 3 Bison quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, Carson's obviously not on a team yet. Still waiting. I have to assume he will be at some point, but we don't know where. Trey is he the backup? Is he the third string? We don't know. Obviously looked good. We talked about that in segment number 2 of the show. Easton has looked good. He's going to be solidified as the backup. But if you had to make a bet, who starts a game first of those 3 quarterbacks in the 2023 NFL season?
It's an excellent question. I'm going to stick my nose out.
Okay.
I'm going to stick my nose out for Easton Stick because you obviously charged to have a franchise quarterback in front of him in Justin Herbert. But I've been watching these preseason games and just thinking, and remember, we talked about it too, Brandon Staley saying, somebody was asking, why wasn't Max Duggan in as our 3, right? He said, we want to give Easton this work. We need to be prepared to have him get this work. So that's why he played the entire game. Threw the ball 41 times. I mean, he was in there for the entire duration of the game, saw some situational stuff in a close ball game. I'm going to stick my nose out, and I never want to wish anything bad on anybody. But what if Justin Herbert ends up actually getting hurt? Easton Stick is
going to be the guy.
Clearly the guy. And he's flashed some things. He's done some good things here. We've seen his ability. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think Easton Stick, maybe it's Bison tunnel vision being here in Fargo and seeing the social media, right? Obviously, everybody revved up when he makes plays and gets into the game, social media, all that good stuff. But for whatever reason, in Trey's circumstance, it is so peculiar, right? It's so peculiar with, 3 in the mix, and Purdy has his own expectations that he's got to live up to, right? But it just seems like he's going to have to go through 2 hoops instead of 1 in Easton's scenario. So I'm just going to stick my nose out there and say, what if Herbert tweaks an ankle or something and can't go for a week? I'm going to say that maybe Easton gets an opportunity before anybody else does.
And I think that's a good answer. When you look at all 3 of them, and like you mentioned, Easton's a play away, right? One thing happens to Justin Herbert, he's going to be the guy. We don't know that with Trey. It could be that way. He could end up beating out Sam Darnold for the backup spot. The 49ers, I don't know if they're cursed. I don't know what you want to call it, but they just seem to run through quarterbacks. So I don't think you can completely eliminate Trey. Even if you put him at 3rd string, I don't think you can eliminate them. The interesting one to me, and I'll just throw it out there, I'm going to say it's going to be Carson. And Carson's not even on a team. Now, I don't know how many hoops you would have to jump through, right? Because you mentioned that Easton's got the 1 play away. Trey, we don't know. It might be 2 quarterbacks. What if there's a scenario where a team, they don't like their backup very much? Maybe they're kind of in contention and they want to bring in a veteran because their guy goes down. And it might be later on in the season. It might be within the next week they bring him in and now he's the backup and now he's 1 play away. I don't really feel confident about any of the answers, to be honest with you. It's tough, right? Because you can't predict injuries, and you don't want those things to happen. But you can predict there will be some injuries somewhere in the league. Carson's not on a team. He could be thrown in a situation that none of us could even imagine, and all of a sudden we see him start 8-9 games for a team. We just don't know. But it's a tough question, right? Because I think you could go all 3. I think you could go any direction with this.
I like that. He's definitely the wild card, Carson, in this. And it very easy. That's the business of the NFL. As you mentioned, 1 play away, part of the NFL. Need a quarterback, part of the NFL. Carson Wentz has proven that he can win a quarterback in the NFL, no matter what anybody says. And that could very realistically be a possibility. Ian, you got a thought on that? First QB for the Bison to get a start this year if you had to pick one between Lance, Wentz, and Stick.
So I actually do think it is going to be Trey. Like you said,
all 3.
Oh, we're all different.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. Yes. Right away I wanted to go Carson just because if a guy's out for a couple weeks, he comes in, gets a spot start here and there. But I think the thing with Trey is in Easton in LA, Justin Herbert played through a big rib injury last year. He's just so stable. He hasn't missed games really throughout his career. But in Trey's scenario, Brock Purdy was already hurt last year. He only played 8 weeks total, including the playoffs. He had the surgery in the offseason, and in practice, the reports coming out the last couple weeks, he has struggled a little bit. I know Kyle Shanahan has poured support over for him. He said he had to melt down in practice to lose his starting job. He's not even starting the preseason game, so he's locked in as the starter. But after these teams get 8 weeks of film, he's 1 hit away. He's not the biggest guy in the world, and I think at the end of the day, I know Sam Darnold, who's going to be in the backup role, I think they are going to end up going with Trey. I know he played well this past weekend, but I think it's going to be because we invested so much in this kid. We got to at least give him a shot. So that's why I do think it is going to be Trey.
It goes back to reps, too, right? Like you were saying earlier, Kyle, you got to give him a chance. I think it's a good explanation. You laid it out there well, Ian. people forget with Purdy, too. I mean, it's not like he was some shiny blue chip, right? And it's an incredible story.
Yeah.
But the NFL is tough, man. And playing quarterback is one of the toughest things in sports. That could quickly turn on you. And, yeah, you got a big investment there waiting in the wings. That might be the way to end up going.
Like I said, it could literally be any of them. And that's the fun part about this debate is because all three are capable. All three have some things to kind of go through to get to that starting spot, and who knows what that scenario could be. But I think it legitimately, you could, as we all three just did, you could make an argument for any of them.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we got all three there. That was good. A good variety, good difference of opinion right there. A little pro Bison breakdown there for the quarterbacks that we'll see on Sundays potentially for NDSU. I want to remind you about our friends. They are our broadcast sponsor for our First Western Bank Broadcast Center. If you love Bison football like we do, then you're going to love this. Introducing the Bison credit card featuring cashback rewards and no annual fee, only available at First Western Bank and Trust, and the Bison. You can bank on us. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. We will be live at First Western tomorrow as well. Bison Block. That's going to be fun. Andy and I will be there on site. Come out and say, hey. We'll have the show for you there from First Western and get you going on a Tuesday. Sam Herder will join us tomorrow, talk some FCS football, week 0 for the FCS as well, and college football at large. So we'll have Sam on. He will be joining us weekly starting tomorrow. So he'll be on with us every Tuesday, get you some good ball talk as we go out throughout the year. Also, NDSU volleyball coach Jen Lopez will join us as we preview the Bison volleyball team's upcoming 2023 season. Fellas, good stuff today. Appreciate it, Kyle. First one with you. Had a blast, man. Looking forward to more.
Absolutely. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ian, good stuff there on the board. Well done, man, coming out of the pen.
Yeah, it was good to be back. It'd been a while. Micah actually didn't go on vacation for like a whole month, so I didn't get to stop in. But no, it was good to be back.
Absolutely. Good to have you along for the ride as well. We will do it again tomorrow, 11 to 1 Central. It's been the Insiders here on Bison 1660. We'll talk to you soon.
At Wimmer's Diamonds, we make every possible effort to find you something special. As the best jeweler in the Red River Valley, our diamond experts can help you find exactly what you're looking for. Natural or lab-grown diamonds. You choose the size, the shape, the cut, and you choose the engagement ring style. Classic or trendy, ornate or simple. At Wimmer's, we would love to help you leave no stone unturned when finding the perfect engagement ring. Visit Wimmer's Diamonds at 4582 32nd Avenue South in Fargo.
33 years and counting. CI Sport, #1 for corporate, resort, collegiate, and high school apparel. We've partnered with college bookstores, high schools, and retailers to bring you high-quality game day apparel. Whether for work or play, every day is game day at CI Sport. With brands you love like Nike, Ozio, Under Armour, and the CI Sport brand. With competitive pricing and fast turnaround times, we help you play harder, work harder, and cheer harder in style. CI Sport, 2121 43rd Street in Fargo and CISport.com.
Invest in your local community with Epic Companies. Hey, this is Mac. Have you been looking to diversify your portfolio and dive into real estate? We offer multiple types